Welcome to the Sisters in Crime Writers Podcast. Everyone has a unique writing journey, so join us for conversations about those journeys from the writers themselves. Hi, this is Julie Henriques, the Executive Director of Sisters in Crime, and this week I am delighted to welcome Liz Bullard to the podcast. Liz is a multi-genre author, therapist, and coach who helps creatives move from stuck to started with clarity and confidence. Known for her captivating storytelling, Liz's notable works include the Prophecy series and the Lira Somers Mysteries, praised for fast-paced plots, vivid characters, and movie-like imagery. Liz's love of reading and writing is evident in the eReads podcast, where she celebrates the power of creativity and storytelling. When she's not writing, coaching, or recording on the podcast, she's cooking, reading, or spending time with Preston the corgi. Corgi. Sorry about that. Liz, welcome to the podcast.
Absolutely. My friend pronounces corgi the same way, so I love it.
Oh, it's interesting. And I'm sure, you've had this, if you grew up as a reader, there's so many words I mispronounce because I mostly read them and I don't hear them. And it's like, and when I was young, that was always a problem because people would laugh at me. It's like, well, how do I know how you say this? No one's ever said it out loud. I've only read
Absolutely.
So welcome to the podcast. And I'm going to start our conversation, which I'm very much looking forward to, the way I always start them, and ask you, when did you say to yourself, I want to write a novel?
Oh, I love this question. So I started writing for fun during the pandemic. A friend was saying, hey, you have a group of us getting together. We're not writers, but we wanted to build community, and we're going to be doing these writing games in the morning. And I said, why not? So that turned into, we would do these prompts, on different words and things like that. And then it became, let's do this challenge. Let's try and do NaNoWriMo. Let's try and do Kindle Vella. Let's try and do this. And so Let's Try turned into a novel. But I think maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, I said, no, I really want to give it a try. I think maybe it was at the end of writing Portal and publishing book 2 in the series, where I was like, oh no, I really love this. This is not just self-care anymore, but I really love this. And I want to see, can I make a path for myself as an author? And from then I've just been growing and saying, okay, how do I get better? How do I create better stories? How do I improve the revenue? And so it started from self-care and turned into a love.
All right. So I can't even tell you how much I love that answer, because there's so much to unpack. And also it's unique. I mean, this is, congratulations, Liz. You surprised me. So this group of folks who got together, and it was self-care. Did you do it on Zoom or did you do it in person?
We started out in, there was an app during the pandemic, the Clubhouse app, and we met on Clubhouse every morning, 8 a.m. We still meet today. 6 years later, we still meet, but we met on Clubhouse, and we would just, we hadn't seen each other. It was all just kind of voice. And so we just connected that way. And then we did have an in-person writers retreat, maybe 2 years or something, or a year and a half after meeting. But it started out on the Clubhouse app. And now we meet on, Google Meet, where we can see each other and stuff like that.
And so I'm imagining that there were other people who got involved with this who weren't saying aloud, I want to be a writer. I want to write because of confidence or, I don't know what I'm doing. But that this community and being together gave them the confidence to sort of out themselves as not only do I want to do this, I really want to get better and do this.
Literally, like at the time when we got together, there was one person who had just published a novel that she had been working on for like years, and then she self-published. Later down the line, there was like another person that, had been publishing, but it also always amazes me because we would say every morning, we're not writers, we're just trying this. And it turned into, no, like some of us are writers, some of us are, podcasters, some of us are, this or that. And I think that's the power of community because often in spaces you're not given the permission to play and explore those parts of yourself as an adult, but it's really amazing of what happens when you create a community where it is safe to explore different parts of yourself. Again, like I never thought I can be an author. I've always loved reading and books, but I didn't know anything about self-publishing or all these different things. And so had it not been this community of exploring, I never would have unlocked that part of myself.
I love that. We live in a perfectionist culture where you
Yes.
need to immediately be good. You need to be thin and beautiful. And, if you're
Mm-hmm.
going to take up dancing, you have to be doing the,
Yep.
tango and day three and all of this. And in the arts and creativity, it's actually truly 10,000 hours to master. I mean, you're going to be terrible at it and you have
Yes.
to embrace being terrible and being terrible as writing something not good.
Mm-hmm.
That's ongoing. That's every time you start something. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden, oh, and it just flows and it's beautiful. It's like, no, every new
That's
project.
me today. I just wrote something like, this is terrible. I'm like, well, that's what editing's for. We're gonna keep going
Right.
forward.
That's right. But that's in our culture. That's a tough thing to be willing to be humble, especially
Yeah.
when you've been good at something else professionally,
Absolutely. Yeah. And like, getting to see some of that in real time of like, when does the perfectionism turn into stagnation or when
Mhm.
does it turn into avoidance, right? Being able to see that in real time, even on social media, right? You look at different, fellow authors and things where they started strong and then they stopped. Perfectionism is a large problem with creativity and it can make you stop altogether.
Yes, and I know you're a therapist. In one of my many previous lives, I was a coach, and would help people with perfectionism because it's such an issue,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all fear based. I mean, it's
Yes.
all because we're afraid we're not going to be great. But you know what? That's okay if you're not great. I mean,
Yeah.
I do things artistically that I'm just like painting. I'm the worst painter in the entire world. I mean, bathroom walls I can do, but like on a canvas, does that stop me from getting paint by number kits and completely being terrible at them? No, it does not.
And that's a good point. Like being terrible at something doesn't stop the enjoyment, right? Like it really
Oh,
is about having a good time.
yes, yes, yes. I mean, those sip and paint, events that they do. I went with my sisters, and we were three different people doing this. It was like we didn't look at each other's during, and afterwards we held them up like, "What happened here?" But that's embracing it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I keep doing it, I'll be better. I'm never going to be good, but embracing it, and then as you talked about, developing the love of it.
Mm-hmm.
You start off as embracing and it's going to be community and I need to express myself creatively because we're living in dark times, and then
Mm-hmm.
you fell in love with writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk to me about the building the craft and learning that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I don't subscribe to there's many have to things in writing or life, but I think you have to read. You have to be a reader. And I think that was really helpful. I found I often was hard on myself when I would read craft books because I never felt myself aligning with that process, right? Whether it was, a lot of books on plotting or this structure and all of these different things. And while there's value in that, I just never found success doing that. And so the book that was very helpful for me was Dear Writer, Are You Intuitive by like Becca Syme. And that was really helpful because I remember during that first NaNoWriMo, I wanted to give up. I felt so terrible, to be honest. And I just wanted to give up because all of these other prescriptions about how to write weren't working. But something about her book really resonated. It just gave me the permission to just create in the way that I needed to write the next scene that I saw in my mind. And after that, then I began to see people talking about being a pantser and, all these different ways of creating story. So I would say one, read, two, listen to other people talk about their craft because you'll find the different things that resonate with you and you'll validate your style and find things to try. And then also try, right? Continue to try different things. I think that's how you hone your craft.
And I love the emphasis on try because something that may work for you for the first, 3 books you write, all of a sudden may not work anymore. Or
Absolutely.
you're starting a new genre or you're exploring something. It's like, oh, I'm a pantser, but I got a world build now. And I spend a few minutes really thinking about this before I dive in and do something that's going to screw me up in book 3.
Absolutely, because how I create with the fantasy series, the prophecy series, is very different than the mystery, the Lira Somers. With the prophecy series, when I tell you it's so out of order, I would see scenes for the end, for the beginning, for the middle, and I would just create these scenes that I would then piece together. Where with the mystery, it would come more chapter 1, chapter 2, like I would see the next scene. But then this time in writing book 3, I did that, but then I saw all these other scenes that I needed to add it. So you have to give yourself that flexibility because just like we grow as a person, our craft, our stories grow, and like giving yourself the permission to try that.
So when you say that you see the scenes, do you write them? Talk to me about your process. I love talking to people about, really the nitty gritty because it fascinates me.
I
So
love that.
you get this, I know I'm such a nerd. When you see the scenes, do you write them? Do you use Scrivener or Word? Let's start there because
Yeah, I have played around with all of them. Word too many times has lost my word, so I'm in Scrivener.
yeah. There's
Absolutely,
nothing
but
sadder than the cutting something and then the paste kind of fails, and then you
yes.
have to go back to 3-day-old backup, and it's like, oh.
Yes, I've been traumatized, but like yeah, like sometimes like whether like I'm walking with my dog Preston or like on the drive home right before I turn down the street like it'll click and I'll like see my character have this conversation or I'll hear something where I'm like, oh, like that would be really cool if my character said this. And then it will start to unravel what is missing. A lot of times I like to say I like to write how I like to cook, right? As you go along, you're tasting, you're like, you need this and you need that, you need this. So my process is very like tactile as I'm
Mhm.
going along. Sometimes I'm like, something's not right here, I don't know what it is. And then when it clicks and like I'll start to unfold and unravel the knots, then by the time I get back to sit down, I can put that in, I can jot down those notes and create that. So it's a lot of in the moment. What do I need here? What feels right? Oh, okay, this needs to be deeper. Oh, this is off because this doesn't feel like something a character would really say. So it's allowing my brain to play and then
Mhm.
getting that on the page before I forget it.
And by doing that, you're engaging your subconscious and saying, yeah, okay. But also, that may be all you need to do is get it down. It may not even end up in the book, but you've got it down in case it does, or in
Yep,
case there's that 2-sentence part of the 1,000 words. It's like, that's the key. That's what's missing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or lets you know, like, oh, actually, I got to go back 3 scenes and add this because that's what's needed. And so, like, again, giving your brain that room to play, it unlocks the things that are working in the background.
So when are you you talked about you plot for the fantasy, you plot for the mystery. You don't as much for the fantasy, but do you have benchmarks? Do you like make scene cards and Scrivener in advance
I
saying
I
these are the
wish.
7 steps I'm going to be taking, or do you
I
just go?
wish. I wish. And you know what? I can't even say that I even really plot like for the mystery. Like what will happen is like, so with with the mystery, so Lyra has dreams about people in need. And funny enough, it started with a dream. I had a dream about a scene which ended up being book two. And so like I wrote that down, or like again, I write with my writing groups, we'll have a writing prompt. So I'll start with the writing prompt and I'll see the scene and I'll write it. And then, okay, well, what happens after this? Okay. And then, okay, what should be the next after that? So it's very much, I wish I can like plot out and see these benchmarks, but it really is just that micro step of, okay, well, like, what would she do after someone told her, no, I'm not going to help you? Or what would she do when she's up against someone in authority and she doesn't like them? She's going to be pretty prickly. And so it's just that next what if, or that next, impulsive thought for me. But I envy people who can really focus enough to get it down and all of that. But it's really just, I'm playing this movie in my head and I'm getting it down on the page. I'm literally, all I'm doing is daydreaming and then just putting it on the page.
So when you start one of the Lyra books, do you
Mm-hmm.
have a sense of this is the mystery? Or do you just, I wish that we were showing you this because she's shaking her head, folks. She does.
I so wish now there are some things like I knew that there's this man that she's dreaming about and she wants to thread this. But as far as like the mystery this time, no, like, and I had did a whole list of like serial killers and all of these different things where I could take inspiration. I have yet to really like go and pull that. It's really just been I'm playing and then I'm like, oh, okay, here's what the mystery is. And like, it's just very impulsive for 50,000 plus words.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I mean, it gives me hives a little bit hearing it, but I do.
Me
So
too.
do you then, as you're writing, and if say something big happens, you all of a sudden realize, or this character shows up, do you then go back, or do you make
Sometimes.
yourself a note and say you gotta bring him in five, earlier or something?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like, that's kind of what happened most recently. So, I had gotten to a point where I saw like one, two, three, four, five, right? All of these things. And then I'm like, something feels wrong here. I don't know what it is, but I jotted down like what I saw for that scene. And then as I'm just going around, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. She needs to go back and talk to this person, and then like this can unravel this clue, and then this. So then what I did is I just went back and I wrote down all these things that I felt like were missing, and I just started doing those scenes, and they're now placed in the front. And I'm working on making my way towards the end, because at the end I feel like, okay, now I know how this is going to end, but okay, now I need us to get there. And a lot of my process, like I love editing. I love the editing process. I love going in and tinkering and moving things and adding things. So I have everything now laid out. And then when I go back and I read and edit, I basically asked myself, if I was watching this on TV, what would the next scene be? Where would we see the
Right.
character? And so, like, that really helps me. So, I do a lot of tinkering. It probably takes me longer than it should, but that's the fun of it. Like, now
Right.
I've gotten everything out, and now I'm playing and figuring out where it goes and what needs to be deepened.
And you can also be figuring out how the structure's working. I mean, is everything front loaded? Is it boring in this,
Exactly.
second third of the book? Like, am I
Exactly.
jamming stuff up? Are all of my characters, my fun secondary characters, having their moment? Did the person who
Exactly.
did it only show up in one other scene, and our reader's going to be really pissed off when they read the book?
Exactly. 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 And so, like, And then at the end of the day, I just kind of like, okay, if I'm entertained, I think the reader will be. And at the end of the day, like I give myself the permission to keep learning and like I'll read the comments and see and people are vibing with the character and they're the plot. And so I'm like, okay, there we go. So there's something about this process that works. So I keep doing it. And so like I think that goes along with the trying. Like try, get the feedback and keep improving.
And people do, especially in a series, they need to love the characters. They want to come back and see them, again. And the mystery is important always,
Hmm.
but not as important necessarily as the rest of it. They really love to like a character or care about them.
I think 1000%. And like with Lyra, so this was the first time with the series I had advanced readers, so ARC readers. So I had sent it out and I was so super nervous, but they really enjoyed her. And the feedback, some people thought she was almost too mean. And rather than softening her, because I felt like that wasn't honest for her, I
Right.
felt like that wasn't right. I said, okay, now I have to when I go and make my edits, I have to go and justify why she's this way.
Yeah.
And I think that was really fun for me as a creative to stand on what I was going to stand on. And it taught me a lot of like, it's okay if others don't agree, but to like make sure it makes sense, make sure you know why you're making that choice. And like, that was big for me.
And sometimes when you're writing, it's all in your brain. You just didn't write it all down. So like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I didn't explain in the scene before why she's so upset in the
Mm-hmm.
next scene.
Mm-hmm.
Let me add the car accident and then we can
Yes.
now part of also writing series in both, in all genres is the world building. And being faithful to that world in the next book and the next book
Mm-hmm.
and the next book, because it takes you time to write all these books, but someone might binge the Lira series in a week. And so if there are things that take them out, they're going to let you know. And all, but you can't remember what you wrote 2 years ago necessarily. So talk to me about world building and how you store that information.
Yeah, and with Lyra, I do write down like the characters and certain things like about, the hospital or the precinct where Detective Tomas works and things like that. For her, I had to do that. With the fantasy series, I did not have a world Bible or anything like that. Probably should have, but like I didn't have any of that. But with Lyra, I think because there's so many pieces, and I think part of me also gets psyched out about the mystery of it and like making sure that there's so many pieces to remember. So I do on Scrivener just have something as the character bio, any important information that I need. And it really also helps having an editor that will give kind of like that style guide. So I'm like, okay, did I miss any characters? So that always helps. So I just do a simple list. Again, I envy people who could be detailed enough. I'm a bit too impulsive, but they have all these different things about their world. I think I will get there at some point as the stories get more complex and they deepen.
Mhm. And with the fantasy series, it's fascinating world building those. So, and I don't write fantasy, so I from the outside in, because you can do whatever you want, but
Hmm.
then you have to live with what you did. So if
Yeah.
a certain type of character can see into the future, you that's true, and that's got to be true for the whole series. Like you can't change that. All of a sudden they can't know, or I mean, you got to know what's happening. You got to live with the choices you make.
But there's something almost freeing with that in the sense of like with the fantasy, again, like especially like someone who kind of started out with the anime side of fantasy, right? Like characters die and yet there's, oh, this magic stone if we travel here. And so I feel like it's almost more forgiving because if someone is a seer, then they lose their power. Oh, well, they ate the flower that was like, there's more room to cover mistakes. But in a
Mhm.
mystery that's grounded in the real life, it's a lot harder, right? Like that store has to be there, that thing, like it's less forgiving. And I think that's also probably why I don't really have a world Bible for the fantasy series, because it's like, okay, we could kind of cover that up in post.
And is the Lira series set in a real place, or did you make up the place as well?
As I look back, I probably should have, right? So in book one, I just name it as the city because I was so nervous about if I said it was New York or here, then people would, and then I committed into book two in naming and saying that, I named some parts of New York, but I don't really name where she is and that things like that. But I do ground it more in New York and all of that. And it is, so there's these paranormal abilities. So that's I guess the fantasy element, but it is more grounded in just urban city living.
And the paranormal, I do love right now that you can read books and they've got a mashup of different genres unapologetically and with joy, right? I mean, I love that. I love reading a mystery with paranormal and romance and, something else thrown in. It's fresh. It just makes
Hmm.
you feel like, ooh. So what made you want to bring in paranormal elements?
Yeah, I think just that the dream of, again, I saw this woman who was dreaming about this man, and unlike her other mysteries, this man keeps repeating, has been repeating for years, and she's trying to find out if he's real or if this is made up in her mind. And from that, I just really fell in love with like, oh, like she has dreams about people in need and like where that can go.
Mhm.
And in book three, I kind of play around with, we see a little bit more people with abilities because up until book one and two, we kind of just see Lyra with this ability and this intuitive sense. She doesn't see herself as a psychic. She's just like, I don't know, this just happens to me. And I kind of let readers kind of decide, well, is she psychic? Is she a seer? Is she a this? Is she a that? But there are some other people where we explore, whether it's they kind of dip into some dark magic or it's people who have just almost, it seems like, astral projection and all these different things. But I think I was just really fascinated with the dream and how this just happens to her. And I think that's so relatable to people of like sometimes things just, is it a gift? Is it a curse? Is it a this? And I think that was really relatable.
Yeah, and I think more so than people will admit, right? A gut feeling or a dream or something
Hmm.
happens at night and you wake up and you're like, I need to check in with this person
Yes.
because something's not right.
Hmm.
I think and again, creative people and writers really lean into that because that's how our lives are.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about publishing paths, and then I want to talk about your coaching because
Yes.
I think that's the multifaceted Liz. How did you decide about how you wanted to be published and how you want to move forward?
Okay, so this one is also kind of maybe a simple answer, but I didn't know there was another path afforded to me, to be very honest with you. Only recently did I start saying, like, oh, wait a minute, I can go and maybe go to small press or see about getting an agent. When I started with friends writing for self-care, on Clubhouse, there was also another group, writers group. And so I would go into these different rooms because I didn't know to look at podcasts or to even to Google. And so at the time, the information, people were self-publishing and they were talking about that. And they were talking about how hard it was to get an agent and how you would have to query, the big five and all of these different things. I didn't know there was a series of other small presses or hybrid or all these different things. So I chose self-publishing. One, because if I waited, I would chicken out and probably never publish. And again, I thought that was the only thing afforded to me. And so in hindsight, I'm really glad I chose that path because now it allows me to build upon my skill so that I can explore writing something that I can, potentially, pitch to an agent or to different, publishers. But yeah, I just that was the only option I thought I had.
Well, and there's so many wonderful things about indie publishing. But the fact that now you know the business because you've been your own publisher,
Mm-hmm.
um, it even if you got published, you got a superstar agent and you got published by the big five right now, it's invaluable that you understand how the business works.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. So like I 1000% agree.
I so I love that story. And I think publishing and gatekeeping and who gets opportunities, it changes and it evolves,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels like it's shrinking a little bit right now again.
Mm-hmm.
The world is shrinking a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it being a pragmatist about it and sort of saying, I want to hold this book in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
So let me figure out how to do that. But then there's nothing to stop you from saying, this book is really, I think I could pitch this. This is
Mm-hmm.
something I want to see what else I can do with it. I think
Absolutely. Because I
that's how you have a
think
career.
1000%, right? Like that's all it is about. Like, how do I make this career sustainable? And also, like, the no or the many of no's that will come on that process seem less scary because at the end of the day, if I really believe in this story, I know how to self-publish it. I know how to, position it for bookstores and things like that. So it's not like the story just dies. I can always say, well, I'm going to publish it on my own, and that's information I wouldn't have had if I didn't do the self-publishing journey. And now I get to see, are there other doors that I can open? And it's just all about continuing to explore the possibilities.
In speaking with you, you strike me as somebody who is going to be positive. You're gonna figure this out. It's like, and I'm sure there are times where you just sit there and you want to, you write to some of your writer friends and say, but that attitude is also invaluable especially the publishing part of this journey.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And like, I think, there's always a reason to give up, but then that dream doesn't die. And then, it festers and it'll make me anxious and depressed because it still wants to live. And so I can either wallow in no one's opening the door for me, or I can get up and be a big girl and say I can open my own door and like do it. And so I have found that when I go and I do the thing that makes my heart smile, I feel better. So it would behoove me to continue to do that. And so that makes me optimistic, no matter what it is, whether it's like coaching, my business, all of these different things, because I now know that I can open the door or find a solution. And that's really just empowering whenever it's a no or a closed door.
And do you, as you're progressing, because it's a career and
Mm-hmm.
you gotta think, what's the dream 10 steps
Exactly.
ahead and then work towards it, but also be open to side paths. I mean, it's
Exactly.
a roller coaster ride. But as a writer, how do you keep challenging yourself? I mean, I don't know a writer who doesn't, okay, now I got this down, so I'm going to make it harder for me in the next book, or I'm going to write another series because I learned so much writing this series and I want to fix what made me, what I didn't like about getting stuck in this last one or whatever. I mean, so how do you keep challenging yourself?
Yeah, I love that question because I think it's so important as humans to challenge yourself. Like so much in our environments encourages us for stagnation, like do the safe thing. But us as humans, we need to keep growing. That helps us as we age and we grow to continue to explore the different parts of ourselves. So I think what helps me is I am a hard critic of myself. So I always find something that I can tinker and improve. So like one thing is, my books tend to be a little bit on the shorter side, maybe 50 to 60,000. Now I'm trying to push to be more industry standard, especially as I want to pitch to agents and things. And that feels so scary to me. And so trying to really just, sit with that discomfort and say, we're just going to take it bit by bit and, do what we can. And if we get there, great. Guess what? We'll keep growing. We'll keep learning. And so I think it's by looking at and being honest about where your shortcomings are. Some of our shortcomings, we're like, yeah, that's a piece of me. And like, I love it and I'm going to stay there. And some we want to challenge. And it's about constantly looking and being honest about, are there things about myself? Are there things about my writing, my career, my choices that are holding me back? And how do I chip away at those things so I can be the most authentic, joyful part of myself?
So are you working on, I mean, I'm looking at you right now and you have all your beautiful book covers behind you. And you're telling me that this has been since the pandemic, granted
Mm-hmm.
6 years, but still it's a lot of books in 6 years. Um, Especially since, the first couple of books are usually, this is how I learned how to write a book, and it's not going to see the light of day until I figure out how to fix it. I don't know if that happened to you, but what are you thinking about a new series, or how do you have some idea forming in your brain, and talk to me about fitting it in and how you schedule your time.
Oh, yeah, that's the big question. Yeah, the reason I keep writing is there's just so many stories, so many characters. Like there's a fantasy series with dragon riders I want to tell. There's the mystery series that I want to work on is about a serial killer and her brother who's a cop. And so there's this old lady named after my mom, Miss Bev, who has had a knee surgery and she's in the nursing home recovering and she's solving mysteries. Like there's all these stories I want to tell and I can't seem to tell them fast enough, but I'm trying to be more diligent about my time to create better structure. So like this year, I said, I'm not going to publish anything. I'm just going to write. And I was kind of at a leisurely pace, but now I need to like set some deadlines because book 3 is supposed to come out next year. And I need to work on this for the literary agent that I want to pitch to. So now I get up 6 o'clock like I should have been doing. And like I write and I'll write 1,000 words or, maybe 2,000 words in a day. And I'll probably do that until I get these 2 projects done. But I would say building up that muscle. So I was already getting up at 8 o'clock and writing with my friends in the morning. Now I just get up a little bit earlier and have that quiet time because I have found if I lie to myself and say I'm going to write after work, it's not going to happen. Those are not my best times. So I have to prioritize the morning and, honor yourself in the mornings where you just don't have it. Maybe you don't write and you find yourself writing in the afternoon when you do have it. And so that's been really helpful is just creating that. And then again, my characters don't let me sleep. They're back there gnawing. And so that is a helpful drive as well.
And it sounds like you can work on 2 projects at the same time.
Ish, not really. So like I'll be thinking about the story or like I had written a part of different actually many of these have a part because in the morning if we do a writing prompt and then I'll see this I'm like oh okay let's write this down and then there's some days where like I'll see certain things on that so many of these have already started and are in different places from these writing prompts but the one that I work on most consistently is book 3 in the Lira Somers. I think maybe eventually we'll have to get to the point where like in the morning we'll work on one thing, in the afternoon work on something else. But right now there's too many spinning plates, that I'm juggling. And so right now it's just one story at a time. The
Yeah.
others are written down. And as I'm walking here or there, I think about different things and it's already replaying. And so then when it's time, I'll sit down and I'll get that all on the page. But just a little bit of words a day every morning.
I remember reading a post on some social media where our writer said, "Do you see your scenes?" while you're writing,
Mm.
or do you or not? And what I found interesting is that the whole post were people who had completely different experiences. People
Interesting.
like, I don't. I see them when I edit, but I don't see them when I write them. I just create them. But other people, and hearing you, it's like, no, I see it, and then I transcribe what I'm seeing. And
Literally.
I offer that up because, again, I think it's so helpful for people to know there's not one way to do this. I mean, there's so many ways the
Yes.
muse is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, yeah, okay, here she is.
Yeah, and I wish I could put that on a poster. I would have told myself that in the beginning because I spent so much time trying to do it quote unquote right that it slowed my process.
Yeah.
And someone I love is James Patterson. And one time I had to say, I'm like, James Patterson can't write all these books if he overthinks. So just get it on the page and like we'll get better over time. But like if you're going to overthink, you're not going to tell these stories. And because there's just too many in my head. And so that really helped to just, it is what it is, get it on the page. Especially again, like as someone who's self-published, I don't really have any rules. You know what I mean? Like the only rules are my own at this stage. When someone else is paying for it, right, there's a little bit more rules. But right now, if I'm having fun, if the reader's having fun, use this as the runway to learn the business, to do all those things. And that has been most helpful. Again, other folks can be like, I'm going to do everything exactly right from the beginning. I got to fail and do it wrong a couple times before so I can learn.
Well, and also you're not failing, you're learning what's right for you. I
Yeah.
think that these rules, well, while sometimes they're helpful, especially if you're floundering, to like try
Mm-hmm.
something. Okay, I'm going to write 500 words every morning and see how that helps me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember an author, Kate Flora, once posting on Facebook, if you write 100 words a day, at the end of, 3 months, you're going to have a draft. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's interesting. So I just to, okay, this is a better way to reframe things.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't work for you, it's not going to work for you.
What 1000%. But you know what? You tried and you learned. And I think again, as a creative, I think that's the best thing. And like whether it's, and with therapy clients, I'm working coaching clients, like if you can figure out if you can figure out how you work, no matter where you're put, you can be successful. But if you gotta first figure out how do you work, how does your brain work, how do you create, and then you can navigate any problem you have.
I did an Instagram live with Art Taylor, who's a short story writer, but he wanted to talk about tapping into creativity when your life is gone a little bit off the rails. So maybe illness or illness of a parent or something's happening in your life, and you're just not
Mm-hmm.
doing it. And so how do you reconnect with it? And it was what you're saying. It's, try something new. Try to don't don't be unkind to yourself, but at the same time, kind of give yourself a little bit of a push of like
Yep.
maybe a morning writing prompt and not putting filters on it, just saying, okay, today this is the prompt. I'm just going to
Absolutely.
write 250 words about this prompt. That's
Mm-hmm.
just maybe going to get your brain back to connecting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like when life is hard and your brain is struggling to think because something else is taking up space, like set those realistic expectations, bring a little bit more play, do something that takes the pressure off because something else is already adding that pressure. Like when my mom had knee surgery, I believe last year, and I was like, oh, I'm going to write book 2 in the Lira series, Chasing Nightmares. I'm going to do all these things. And I couldn't do that. Like I was getting some words down, but not every day. Like when I'm home and life is calm and normal. And I had to adjust that expectation because I was being hard on myself. The words weren't coming because no, you're pouring into the family cup right now. So you don't have much mental energy for the creative cup. And so I was like, I'm going to do what I can. And when she was better, I was able to come home and have my structure and do what I needed. And so yes to everything you're saying and be kind with yourself and set those realistic expectations.
Yeah, and that's such a great example because and I love the idea of a cup because, the way I've always thought about it is you get a cup. Right. And people get cups, and in that cup is your sense of humor, your creativity.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get a lot of one thing, you might be short on another thing, and you might have to
Mm-hmm.
make it up or
Yep.
recognize that there's that deficiency. But when you're taking care of somebody, and caretaking, and so many people, I mean, I have white hair, are in that sandwich generation where you're taking care of your parents and you're taking care of
Mm-hmm.
youngers. It's um it's be kind to yourself, because caretaking is
Absolutely.
also a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, like, if you're like, I can't do 1,000 words a day like I'm supposed to, well, yeah, like, look at the reasons why you can't. That, you know?
I know somebody who wrote a draft on a phone in
Mm,
between, like while waiting for somebody to get out of appointments and stuff. He's
that's
like,
smart.
okay,
That's a great
I don't have my
compromise.
computer with me, but I know I have 20 minutes right now, so I'm gonna work on this book. And the
That's
whole
so
draft
good.
got done on his phone.
But that's so good. That's a way of, like, again, showing up for someone else and making sure you're showing up for you. Because often we put ourselves and our needs on the back burner, and that can like breed like resentment and, again, like anxiety and depression, because this dream still wants to thrive and you're not listening to it. And so finding what you can do in those spaces, and so again, whether it's pen and paper, whether it's your phone, finding the smallest form of moving forward.
So let's talk about your coaching and that
Yes, yes.
journey. Because that's part of what you do so talk to me about how you came to that, and how you work with folks.
Yeah, so I'll take you back to the beginning. So it'd be 4 years in August that I went into private practice. So I left my full-time job to do therapy and all of that. And I also, again, was working on being a writer. And I was just paying attention to things I would see online or in my writers group about people wanting to give up, right? The journey was too hard, or they were struggling with finishing their draft, all these different things. And I knew when I went through that, what helped me was my therapeutic background of, okay, let's explore why we're having this big feeling. How do we, get back to center and all of that? And I was like, this is something I can offer to this community who has offered me so much. So there was an opportunity for me to get a grant for my business. And I did, I went and purchased a coaching program to learn how to extend that part of the business. And I launched my creative wellness coaching, which is part of the author brand, where I help people move from stuck to started on their creative goals. And so using that therapeutic eye with the creative experience of, like, okay, if you struggle with perfectionism, let's break down why that comes up and how you can move forward so you don't get stuck. Oh, you're, struggling with your process. Okay, maybe you are a procrastinator, so you need to set deadlines so that way you can, follow through, or you need accountability. And so I really enjoy finding the barriers and giving people the tools so that they can do, more of what they love. And, I really just enjoy that about creatives, because I don't think there's a lot of supports for creative folk. It's always like, well, just get a job, or you're just playing. The creative is always minimized, when that's a part of that person. And, like, for people to respect that and to honor that.
Well, and the world would be a better place if people respected and honored the creativity, because I think
Absolutely.
that's how we're going to get through a lot of stuff,
Absolutely.
right? Um,
Absolutely.
in coaching and therapy are two different skill sets,
Mm-hmm.
because in coaching you're helping with goal setting, and you're helping figure out things. In therapy you're digging into the roots
Mm-hmm.
of who made you feel terrible as a kid, so that you don't believe you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So do you find sometimes you need to switch hats, or is it, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to you having both areas of training, but it's um, again, in my time of coaching, it was always being very clear with clients. I can't help you. You need to actually talk to somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's trained in helping you with this, because I can't help you with this. You're digging up some stuff. I can help you set goals, but you need to talk to a therapist. But
Yeah,
you
that's a great,
can be who they
yeah.
talk to.
Yeah, like that's a really great question. And like, absolutely, they're very different in different styles. And I think where my style really helps is I really enjoy giving people actionable skills, right? So here's problem A, here's the skill, here's how we get to the solution. And I think that makes it a lot easier to do the coaching. So
Mhm.
while the therapy helps me catch the patterns, the coaching
Mhm.
side helps me give the practical skills. And people who are coming for coaching, right, it's more time limited, right? They're buying a couple sessions and we're working on one thing and we're moving forward, so it gets to be a nice reprieve sometimes for the heavier stuff of therapy. But again, getting to use that to inform things that I might be hearing, or even being able to tell someone like, oh, you maybe need to talk to someone about this. This keeps coming up and this is out of my
Yeah.
scope for here. But again, to offer that support so people can be well in all aspects is something that I really enjoy.
And I love what you're talking about, the holistic person
Hmm.
and figuring out the whole. And the gift that people have where you can recognize, and this is why people do need to be trained as coaches and obviously as therapists, but, this is a pattern that's going to keep getting in your way. And these are the 10 ways it manifests itself. This isn't not
Exactly.
only about not finishing your book. So
Absolutely.
let's help you figure this out. But you can't do it for them in either case, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's really important because, like, I had a therapy client of like, can't this just be like, my personal trainer where I come in and you tell me everything? And we were able to have a full circle moment of like, this is why I can't. Because if I were just telling you everything, you wouldn't have had that growth moment to recognize and to make a choice when I'm not standing there with you. And I think that's the same both with therapy and coaching. It's important for me to help you realize what you need and help you see that you have the skill inside of you. So that way I don't have to be there. Like there comes a time where you shouldn't need me. You should be able to stand on your own so that you can help someone else and so on and so forth. And so empowering people is a big part of just my overall personhood, but both in therapy and in coaching, empowering people to use the skills that I'm giving, to have them believe that they can problem solve once I navigate them in, a certain area.
That's such a gift to folks. And bringing it back to books and publishing and everything else, I mean, that same gift is how to help people edit and fix their books and figure out things and everything else is you need to be able to do stuff. You can hire people to help, but you can't give them the power of
Yeah.
decision making. You at some point have to say, no, she's going to stay this way because that's who, like you, when you talked about
Mm-hmm.
people wanted Lyra to not be as tough. And you're like, no, no, she's tough. Let me do a better job explaining. You need to be confident and to be able to say, I hear what you're saying. Let me fix it so it works.
Absolutely. And I do think people struggle with that. And again, whether it's like an entrepreneurship or the creative, everyone's looking for that right answer because we're so
Yeah.
used to being told, but you really need to have the courage to be independent. And if you can have the courage to be independent, you can be a successful author, entrepreneur, like whatever, because it's going to take you. It's going to take you finding the right answer for you. And some people get stuck there. It's like, well, you tell me what to do. And it's like, I can't tell you what to do here. That's completely up to you.
Well, and I'd imagine, Liz, it would also help people who are making decisions and are doing this and doing that, and maybe have gotten themselves into a corner to hire somebody like you to say, let me tell you what's going on so you can help get them back into the middle of the room so that they could figure this out.
Yeah.
Because people can keep making decisions and feel so passionate and then get stuck for different reasons and you physically need to move them back so they can see it's their four walls, not just that corner.
Yeah, and like that is another part I really like, right? Because again, sometimes when people are asking me for the answer, I'm like, you already know what it is. I just got to help you find it. And
Yeah.
so being able to empower them to go from a session where they're like, I don't know what to do, to clearly having, that answer, not because I told them, but because I was asking questions and I gave them the space to look inwards. That I love to do, because it's all about you being able to be your most authentic self. And you're not going to get that by me telling you, but I can help guide you to find that answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So you made a lot of changes in your life in the last 6 years.
Yes.
Uncovered, the muse and found a community. And, let's just for a second talk about the importance of that, finding your community. Can you talk about, I mean, you've already done it, but I always like to underline that for folks.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you say to yourself, I think I want to find your community. Don't wait to join an organization like Sisters in Crime or to get on a
Mm-hmm.
club's house or something. Find people, because you have to
Absolutely.
do it with people.
Absolutely. And like sometimes you do have to pay for a community like Sisters in Crime and all these other, places. Because, again, like I'll talk about it from the aspect of sometimes you need to reevaluate your community. Sometimes you find that you have different goals or expectations, or the people that you're around sometimes limit your growth because you want them to be where you are and they have to go on their own journey. And so you always have to, I always say reevaluate and have a time of like, okay, what's in the way of your progress? And like sometimes like that does come from like engaging with different people. So for example, I kept saying I wanted to do a Kickstarter. And for those who don't know, Kickstarter is crowdfunding where you set a goal and people make purchases or pre-orders to help you reach that goal. And a friend was like, well, you should just do it. You keep talking about it. And I didn't recognize I had been doing that. And someone else had said something to me about that in regards to something else I wanted to do. So by that external community calling me out, I was like, oh, I do this a lot. Where did that come from? And one of my communities I noticed talks about things that they want to do and they don't move forward. So I now need to make a choice to change that community so that I can also change the way I speak about the things that I do. And that can be very hard. It doesn't mean that you excommunicate people or they're no longer people you care about, but you also owe it to yourself to be around people who inspire you to move forward. And so if you're in a place of stagnation, really think about, are you with people that push you or encourage you to be comfortable?
Are you with people who push you or encourage you to be comfortable? That's a
Hmm.
t-shirt. I mean, that's seriously, that goes on a 3x5 card and it sits because, and this changes as you grow and
Yes,
change, your people are going to change. And I do love that you're highlighting the comfort of being with people who are all like, if it weren't for this, I would have this, or if it weren't for X, I'd be Y. And while that may be true, doesn't mean you can't circumvent it all and say, I'm going to be C instead. That's,
absolutely.
you're right. You're right. All this is getting in my way. So I'm going to go around the system and I'm going to try this.
Well, absolutely. Like we'll take this new desire to find like a illiterate agent and a publisher, right? I was around people where there was like maybe one person and everyone else was like self-published, so it seemed impossible. I shifted my environment by going to book signings and now seeing like there's a lot of people who have agents or this, and now I'm in a minority of being self-published. I'm like, wait a minute, this is more possible. So like your community will help you know what's possible, and so be with people that inspire you. Like they make your impossible thoughts seem so possible. So
Mhm.
like find that group of people and like again, sometimes you have to be in membership with like people like Sisters in Crime, where you get to have access to so many different people that aren't in your everyday community.
And the crime writing community is a particularly kind community. As
Mm-hmm.
I've said many times, I think it's because we work so much out on the page. But you can, when you go to a conference, if you sit with somebody, you can talk to them or ask them questions or, just just be there, and whether they're far ahead or they're just a couple
Mm-hmm.
of steps ahead of where you want to be, and people are willing to talk and
Mm-hmm.
to support and to give you some advice. And if they aren't, bless them and then move on. I mean, that's
Absolutely. That's it. Someone
yeah.
else that wasn't your person. That's it. Just move on.
Yeah, no, I think that this is finding community in life matters, but it's critical for writers. Um,
Absolutely.
well, Liz, this has been a great conversation, which could have gone on for much longer, but but it inspired me, it's the reason that I love doing it. And you have a podcast. I'm sure you love talking to people and getting inspired by
Absolutely.
right? Such a gift. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for doing this and having me. And again, thank you for the work that you do with Sisters in Crime. Just amazing organization.
Thank you. My honor. Thank you for being with us today. Sisters in Crime is about community. We were founded to advocate for women crime writers, and we continue that mission by fighting for equity in the crime writing community. Sisters in Crime is an international, inclusive organization for all who write and love crime fiction, mystery, thrillers, and suspense. Join us at sistersandcrime.org and make sure you subscribe to this podcast.